Thank you very much, Charlie. That, unfortunately, has finished Manchester United 1, West Ham United 0 with a last-minute injury time sickening blow from Marcus Rashford, which may or may not have been offside. I've seen it once. I mean, it looked close. I haven't seen the replay with all the lines drawn and the grid and everything like that. That being said, I don't really have any complaints about losing that game. It was a close game. Let's get this absolutely right. Right up until until the point that Marcus Rashford scored that goal, I think each side had one shot on target. Honestly, I looked at it about 85 minutes, one shot on target. I counted one save from Areola. I don't think David De Gea, possibly our shot on target might have been Fornal's one, which was blocked anyway. I think what we witnessed there were two bang average teams. With up until the end with a lack of cutting edge. Let's just get to the goal. Basically, Man United scored in 93rd minute, 92nd, 93rd minute, something like that. The ball was played up to Bowen. Bit of miscontrol from him. I'm not overly blaming Bowen or anybody else for that matter. There was an opportunity for Fredericks to intercept with a header. It grazed his head. It was a glancing header. Basically, he headed it into the path of an on-rushing Manchester United trio, which was to comprise of Cavani, of Anthony Martial, and Rashford, the three substitutes, actually. And they combined, run down to the left, down their left-hand channel, into the space vacated by Frederick. Sounds like I'm really blaming Fredericks here. I'm not particularly for that. In fact, I'll get into all that in just a bit. Cavani squared the ball quite nicely for Rashford to tap it in. There was a suggestion that when the ball was played to Cavani, though, that Cavani may have been offside. You possibly had more of a chance to look at it than I have by now. Was it? Wasn't it? Don't know. Doesn't really matter, really, because that's the result. I think what does matter on this particular occasion, I felt that was a really disjointed performance from West Ham there. I don't feel we showed an awful lot of ambition in that game. I thought we lacked some real quality. And make no mistake about it, I would have happily come on and done this review and said, I'm happy with the point at Old Trafford. You know, West Ham have come a long way, but this is not the Manchester United of old. As I say, they huffed and they puffed, and eventually they blew the West Ham house down. But they did lack a lot of cutting edge, Manchester United, and so did West Ham. And I don't complain too much because it wasn't until right near the end when we got our first delivery right, which Souček glanced a header wide from a free kick, that we'd really got our deliveries correct. And I do appreciate I'm going at this review sort of from a lopsided perspective, but please excuse me, I'm on my own. I ain't got my buddy here to go back and forth with, so we'll just have to go as it's going through my mind, so to speak. Our delivery before that had been woeful. I'm talking delivery from set plays. I'll get to the open play part in just a bit. But our corners and our free kicks, and we hadn't had an awful lot of them, were awful. We weren't clearing the first man, or they were too close to the goalkeeper. They just really didn't trouble Manchester United. And I think if you're going to play in the way that we played today, which was to defend deep, and by and large, we defended well. Let's get that right. They've scored well after 90 minutes. By and large, we defended well, particularly centrally. Let's put it that way. If you're going to play like that and set up to defend, then you've got to offer something either A, on the counter-attack, or B, when you get some set plays, you get a corner, you get a free kick. And that just wasn't good enough. I mean, it really wasn't. The deliveries really cost us there. I don't overly blame Souček either at the end, but you need to be clinical, and we weren't clinical at all. In fact, I don't think we had much of a cutting edge at all. It was really good to see Zuma back today, and I think he gave an assurance to the back line, still playing out of position. He really needs to be playing at right centre back, but there were some really good blocks from him, and I think he made it, by and large, he coped with Ronaldo really, really well. Actually, fair play to Dawson for chucking his head down next to Cristiano Ronaldo's boot and getting booted in the head. Unfortunately, a step too far for us on this occasion, and that's about as poor a Man United as we've played them this season. So we've played them twice. They've won twice. We've won once. They're not going to stay that crap forever, Man United, and that was really an opportunity to beat them and to go at them today. But what was really quite stark and what I really found, well, I guess quite annoying, but was quite apparent during the game, was how isolated so many of our players were. Mikel Antonio, for large parts of that game, was really, really isolated. Now, don't get me wrong; he didn't play well today. I thought he was a bit. I thought he was a bit slow in terms of movement. He lacked some sharpness. He was quite slow in his mind as well at some points. But he had no support. There was nobody anywhere near him. He needs some help. He needs some help for his mates, and I don't feel that he got it today. It's a really difficult one because obviously we had the player that I would usually pick out and always seems to play well, which is Declan Rice. Sort of really tried his hardest today to get us up the pitch, but we didn't seem to be able to do it. And another area where we didn't function was at fullback for two different reasons. Cresswell was really interesting one. We're normally very good down that left-hand side of building little triangles, getting three people involved. You know, you'll see it. Cresswell, Benrahma, Rice will come over and join in. Whatever. Cresswell, Benrahma, Lanzini will join in. And the what was it in the other game against Leeds, or sorry, the game against Norwich? Then you get Vlasic would be over there, Cresswell would be over there, and Rice would pop over there. And what they do is they'll create a little triangle, which allows Cresswell the opportunity to cross. Nobody ever got close to Cresswell from our team to allow a little exchange, to allow a cross to get over. They did defend it well. Man United, but we didn't give him anything to think about. He was left on his own. I thought for large parts of the game, Bowen was left on his own. Again, a real lack of support from Soufal behind him. Who, the funny thing is, I understand why Soufal was taken off from one aspect. Soufal did not play well today. Did not play well at all. However, he'd already seen off the guy, Elanga, that was causing him trouble. And so when Rashford came on, actually the first thing that happened was Rashford tried to go on a run and Soufal tackled him. So I look, unless he wasn't injured, I do wonder if Moyes took Soufal off based on his performance against Elanga, which wasn't good. But actually, against Rashford, it might have been different. I'm not saying the goal would have been, but it was at the end of the day, that substitution did not work out at all. Swapping Soufal for Ryan Fredericks did not work out. But I don't want to blame any of this defeat on any one person, because I just thought collectively we were really poor when quality was called for, not just from the deliveries at set plays. Fornals, some really frustrating touches today. But again, there were points in the first half where Fornals played reasonably well. And I felt a real mixed bag from a lot of the players. I felt that there was a really good save from Areola, and then I thought like a really dodgy part where the ball came back to him, and he eventually had to kick it out for a throw-in. But it was a bit squeaky bum time from him. Dawson, another one. Whilst yes, he did a couple of good blocks. He stooped his head down to get in Ronaldo's. To get down and stick his head by Ronaldo's foot. Basically took a kick in the head to stop a goal. I admire that bravery, I really do. But one of the first things that happened in the game was he almost gave the ball away in an unforgivable pass. And then, he didn't cover himself in glory later on in the game either. So, again, you get this mixed bag from these players. And I felt almost like we didn't turn up today, and I was feeling that throughout the game. But as the game was progressing, and I do understand that a lot of you haven't seen this on telly today because it wasn't on telly. But as the game was progressing, I thought, all right, you know what? We're playing crap. We're not really creating anything. Maybe a draw. We'll come away with a draw. That's fine. Because Man United, as I say, they huffed and they puffed. But, they were a million miles away from the cutting edge that you might find with Man City or Liverpool with Salah and Jota and Mane and all those guys, and even a lot of the other teams, there wasn't that cutting edge and that clinical edge to Man United. I thought, you know what, all right, we come away with a draw, try and get some players in the transfer window and see where we go, because we did look tired. And I kept on casting my mind back to that winter break we had 2 or 3 years ago. We went on the winter break, and I think they went to Dubai or something like that, came back, and they all looked refreshed and really good. And with the exception of, I think, I mean, maybe one or two, but certainly Declan Rice, we did look a tired bunch today. But I was really bothered by how isolated, um, just how little support we got amongst each other. Now, there was a period in the first half where we played pretty well in the first 10 minutes. We sort of went at them a little bit, albeit without troubling De Gea. We did not trouble David De Gea today. And you can cut and slice this all you want. And that's why I don't really overly complain at the defeat, really. It's a sickener because it was near the end. But we didn't threaten the Man United goal. You couldn't ever turn around and say we were a better team today. But I would have taken a draw and said, well, hold on, Man United didn't create anything either. But we were all right in the first 10 minutes. Then Man United had this little period, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes, something like that. And just we kept on giving the ball away. Not every pass, but you know what I mean? It was awful when you look at these players saying, come on, lads, please do something. And again, I found myself as the game progressed further and further, more and more frustrated. I think in a bit with David Moyes for just not doing something other than what he did, which replaced Soufal with Fredericks, which was odd. I guess it was a decision about pace. I guess it was to look at Rashford and think, okay, this guy's got a load of pace and I'm going to match up. But why didn't he do that earlier on anyway? Because Elanga was giving Soufal all manner of problems. And Soufal was one of the main culprits, I've got to say, not just from the run around he was being given by the Man United left winger, but also by the amount of times he was surrendering possession. He looked nervous today, Soufal. And when you got one fullback not operating nervously, being beaten by his opponents, and then also not getting close to Bowen, that shuts down that side for us, and it was shut down. And then you've got the other side, which I've alluded to, no support with Cresswell. Look, what Cresswell wants to do is Cresswell wants to go down that wing. He wants to give someone the ball, move into space. Then that person gives Cresswell the ball. He puts his foot on the ball. He rolls it forward. Then he curls it in. Just weren't able to do that. We just got no support to them at all. And it must have been a pace thing with the Soufal issue. Otherwise, I mean, someone's just put in the chat there, Johnson. You know, Johnson surely would have been the choice. He's played remarkably well at right back this season. And look, Frederick's got a lot going for him in terms of his pace, and I understand that. But we were really struggling to retain possession today. And Frederick's not known for that. It's not technically good with the ball at his feet. It's going to be easy to blame a number of people because of that goal. I don't particularly want to. I think there's a bigger issue at hand here. I think that's the way we approached the game, which was extremely defensive. We were sat far too deep, and I understand about sitting deep, right? I understand it. They've got a lot of pace in behind Man United. They've been playing counter-attacking football. And David Moyes wanted to compress that space between the back four and the goal to give us half a chance. I get it. But where was the accuracy? Where was the snap in the passing? Where was that counter-attacking style that has really been a hallmark of the David Moyes West Ham team? I just didn't see it. It was so depressing to see so many players play like that. Antonio did not play well today, and I just looked at so many of them and thought, mate, you just look tired. You look shattered, and that's after a week. That is after a week. I was funny enough when I do these videos, just as we're doing it, I write all sorts of notes and everything, and I'd actually written down right near the end, a point's not really good for either team. And by that, I meant a point is not good enough for either team in terms of top four. No good for top four. No, it wasn't any good for Man United. Wasn't any good for us. And there you go. But we didn't have to worry about a point because we didn't get one. We didn't get any points at all. Man United got all 3 points. So that's a really good result for them. Albeit not a great performance at all from them, it has to be said. Will Manchester United get top four? I suspect not. I suspect somebody else will nick that spot. But I'll tell you, we won't get top four. It's us. Because if we can't go up there and beat them when they're at their worst, and United have been great in the past, a great football team, and Alex Ferguson was sat up in the stands. And I was thinking about it, actually. I thought, actually, Man United, if Alex Ferguson probably would have been have bought Declan Rice and would have been his type of player, amongst others. And I'm sure Manchester United will again at some point in the future will be contesting things again. Will be going for top honours once they get themselves sorted out and get whatever, sort out everything. Now's the time to beat them this season. If you can't beat Manchester United this season, it ain't going to get any easier. They're not going to get worse. They're not going to suddenly become a relegation team, are they? And that was an opportunity. And it's a difficult one to say it this season because over previous seasons, you'd accuse Moyes of fluffing his lines against the big clubs. But he's already beaten Man United this season. He's beaten Chelsea, beaten Liverpool, haven't we? Beaten Man City. I just wonder now, and I know people don't, well, not everyone, but I know people often don't like the excuse of being tired, but excuse is not a dirty word. Excuse doesn't mean a lie. I just wonder if what with the European campaign, it's just been a stretch too far. I think a lot of us thought that the fatigue, it wasn't going to be fatigue necessarily with the European campaign. It was going to catch that. We were going to get injuries, and that would stop it. But I think Moyes has surprised all of us by the strong teams he's put out in the League Cup, the Premier League, the FA Cup, which we've just seen, and of course the Europa League. He's playing strong teams in 4 competitions. We just do not have the squad depth for it. Do not have anything close to it. And despite, I thought, Man United's cutting edge today, they did look fitter than us. They did look sharper than us. I don't think anybody can deny that. You know what? I mean, it's what Elbow's saying here. I mean, he said we have to be puffed, but they've just got better quality players. I do agree. I do agree that the better quality players came through there, and the passing, theirs was much better. But I still think they lacked a cutting edge. But what I really thought made them better was that they just were fitter and less tired, and they were able ultimately to make 3 substitutions, which were going to go on to impact the game. All Moyes could do at that point, he's already done the swap with Ryan Fredericks. Where was Vlasic? I mean, it's let's be fair, there were players there that weren't playing well. I would have kept Bowen on. I mean, certainly, I think he looked to at least retain some kind of threat for it. But where was Vlasic? Now, I'm not saying Vlasic is necessarily the answer. But Vlasic did not play well against Leeds. Vlasic did not play well against Norwich. But it's something, and if he's not going to use him, then sort of what's the point? Because it just didn't look like a goal was going to come from anywhere. And the transfer window is now. We need to bring players in now. And Moyes alluded to bringing 2 players in now. I mean, it's something he's going to have to do. It was quite apparent during that game that had Moyes had another striker, and I don't mean one he wouldn't use, like an Ajeti or a Perez or somebody like that. I mean, a striker of his choosing, then he would have looked at Antonio, would have introduced him. Might have been alongside Antonio, might have been a substitution from Antonio. But on the bench, when we looked at the bench, we lacked the attacking players to impact that game because that was 0-0 going into 75 minutes. It's 0-0, 1 shot on target for each team. At 90 minutes, 1 shot on target for each team. Yes, United had more pressure. But at that point, you think, okay, I'm going to switch things up here. I'm going to get me substitutes on. I'm going to go for it. Well, Ronnie, we don't have any. We don't have any. Look, yes. All right, we've got a bench. We've got 7 people on the bench or whatever it might be. Right, but you can't use Yarmolenko. You can't use Masuaki. They're not going to impact the game. They're not going to win you the game, right? Forget the Chelsea thing. It was, look, come on, But Vlasic, you paid money for. Where's Vlasic? Okay, well, then we need to put players on the bench who Moyes is going to look at, and he's going to think, I'm going to get them on, and they're going to freshen things up. Martial came on. He's even had a falling out with the Man United manager. They've been gobbing off at each other for the past week. Yet still Martial comes on as an impact in the game. Cavani comes on as an impact in the game. Rashford as an impact in the game. Look, I'm not suggesting we're going to have substitutes as good as them, but they were there. They were there. They maybe not for the taking, but I certainly think that we should have done, bearing in mind that is not a vintage Manchester United team, we should have gone up there and got more than 1 shot on target. We really, really should have done. And I think what worries me about all this, and this is why I'm not going to, I don't like to go too mad into offsides and things like that, because I think it masks over the cracks. I don't even want to go too much into that goal, because I think what's going to happen is David Moyes might look at that, and David Moyes might turn around and say, well, hold on a second, that was offside. David Moyes might think the reason we didn't get any points was because of the offside. The coaching team might look at individuals. Oh, the reason we lost that game was because of the way the goal was conceded, or whatever the case may be. I think you could look at the last 30 seconds of that game and then blame that for the loss. But I also think you've got another 92 minutes and 30 seconds, which will give you a far bigger barometer of why we actually lost that game. And it was the lack of ambition. It was the poor passing. It was the poor deliveries from set plays. And the urgency. And it was a far more of a hallmark on that game. Because Manchester United didn't want any urgency at the start, and if you're bored enough, and I personally, I wouldn't bother. I'd forget about all this game and enjoy your weekend. But if you are bored enough, I would ask you to go and look at that game from the 5-minute mark. We got a series of throw-ins, and as you know, on that Manchester United pitch, it dips down, it's banked. Cresswell was going to take one. In fact, Cresswell took two of them. There was another one where Fornals ran to retrieve the ball. We had two instances. Number one, let's call it the hill. Cresswell ran down the hill to retrieve the ball. And I looked at it, and there was a ball boy there. I thought, well, the ball boy's not throwing the ball back purposely. Basically, even after 5 minutes, they didn't want us taking quick throw-ins. All right? And it wasn't like, even they were already in position, the ball boy still didn't give it back. And then it rolled down again, and Fornals had to run down again. The ball boys weren't throwing the balls back. I thought, hold on a second, this is a bit weird. Why are they not throwing the balls back? I thought, I'll watch it again. And it happened again, but this time deeper in our half. So clearly, Man United really wanted to slow the game down, but there was no urgency from us at that point. I found it really, really weird that mates. I can put it down to ambition. I can put it down to fitness. Put it down to lack of substitutes, sharpness. On any other day, honestly, I swear to you, I'd have been saying, I'd already written down, I'll take that point from Old Trafford. Had it been Man City, had it been Liverpool, had it been Chelsea, I would have said fair play. But that was not the look that we were playing there of a top level team. They weren't. Realistically, Manchester United that we saw today didn't look any better than Leeds, who we played last week. Opportunity missed from us. Sorry, bit whingy, bit moany, but that's what happened. Okay, Kevin has just said, just checked by drawing the lines, he was offside. Look, then what can you say? It was offside. Another one of those nasty decisions at Old Trafford. It did have the feel of a rushed VAR decision, but I will go with that, actually. Despite the offside, despite everything else, we didn't deserve anything today. We did not deserve anything today because we weren't sharp enough. We didn't want it enough. We didn't have a good enough technique. We weren't fit enough. We weren't fast. But basically, in all the areas of the field, we just weren't able to impact the game. Fortunately, and almost by accident, we found ourselves in a position, even though we hadn't played well, after 92 minutes still being in the game. And the only reason we're in the game is because Man United hadn't threatened our goal. One shot on target for each team. Bit of a sickener, really. I think we're going to need to adjust our own expectations a little bit, but look, there'll be more of an inquest into that. The season is far from over. We're in the knockout rounds of Europe. We're still in the FA Cup, and we can still clinch a European place. It looks like European players will go down to the top 6 in the league, and we still got that to fight for. But if we keep playing like we played against Leeds, like we played against Man United, and dare I say it, actually how we played against Norwich, which don't look a bad result now considering what they've just done, then we may find ourselves, really struggling to qualify for Europe again. And I don't think we're going to finish 12th or anything like that. Might find ourselves in 7th position or something like that. And, we're better than that. And it doesn't take much. It just takes a little bit of ambition, a little bit of fitness, and just a squad being big enough that everybody, do you know what? Everybody doesn't have to play 90 minutes all the time. Let's give ourselves a rest. That game today was won by substitutes. Man United had some. We didn't have any. There you go. Right. Anyway, sorry about all that big old moan up. commiserations to anybody that's been up there. The crowd were loud and raucous and lovely, and commiserations if you've got to drive down from Lancashire today. Not going to be very good, is it? Let's be fair. Probably keep the radio off and listen to some music or something. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch up with you